you're the average worker out there,
Yes, sir.
you're seeing people on the top getting phenomenally rich. You're no better off. And by the way, the likelihood is your kid is going to be worse off than you are, right?
Yeah.
That's a tough reality. Why is that? Who the hell is even talking about? A, why is that? And B, what the hell do we do about
And
it?
I think that was the appeal of Trump, is he appeared to be talking to us.
Exactly.
Whereas Democrats are kind of condescending and ignoring it.
All right. Essentially, Democrats say, status quo is working okay. We're going to tinker around the edges, make a little bit of a change here. Trump says the whole goddamn system is broken.
Yeah.
But he said, I will fix it.
Yeah.
Well, his solutions will make it worse. But he at least acknowledged that the system is broken. Democrats often don't.
In a moment, you're going to see Bernie Sanders deliver a scathing, blistering critique of the Democratic Party, which Bernie sometimes does, but usually not as starkly as this. And it's not just a takedown, however. There's a lesson in it. It's a roadmap. Of course, the Democrats will ignore it, so what's the even point? But, you know, for educational sake, here's how they could fix things if they wanted to relate to the average working person again.
So what happened? How did we get here with the Democrat establishment?
It's a great question.
Well, and the answer is that we do know, and that is during the 70s, 60s, Democrats caught on that you could raise a lot of money from wealthy people. So you got a Democratic establishment now, which is funded by wealthy people. You have consultants who are really way out of touch with reality, who make a whole lot of money in campaigns, and working class is ignored. Donald Trump comes along and says, you know, I care about you, which was a lie.
Senator Sanders recently joined Andrew Schulz, lifelong Democrat and very popular comedian and podcaster, and Akash Singh, also a very popular comedian, on their Flagrant podcast, where Sanders did not hold back. He laid out in very plain terms, as he often does, he lays it out very clearly, how the Democratic Party has lost touch with working people, and how that disconnect helped hand the 2024 election to the right. It's a wake-up call for progressives to push the party away from corporate donors and back towards the working class people it claims to represent. Now, I get that this is going to be difficult for the Democratic Party to do because corporate donors have lots of money and it helps them get elected without having to actually relate to the common person or raise grassroots dollars, but instead you get big checks. But it might be a way to not keep losing elections also, so it might be worth listening to.
2016, I was like, this is going to happen. This guy's going to do it. And it felt like they stole it from me. And I'll be honest, it broke my heart when you supported him.
Look, but you have, in the world that I live in, you got a choice. And I mean, a lot of people, including my wife, agree with you. But, you know, you're down to a choice. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton or is it going to be Donald Trump? Not a great choice.
But it ended up being him anyway, so why don't we burn it down?
Well, because it's easy to say burning it down means that children are not going to have, you know, food to eat, that the schools will deteriorate, people will not have health care.
I got it.
And I'm an elected official. I got to represent the people.
That's fair.
And I can't turn my back on.
But then could we not also say, if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear...
Fair enough. That is, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point.
There is a looking back on what could have been in a very frustrated way. Bernie Sanders lamenting the way that the Democratic Party straight up stole the election from him. That is not exaggeration. Schulz and Akash get it right. Bernie admits it. The DNC, the Democratic National Party, stole the election, stole the momentum, blocked Bernie Sanders, gave it to Hillary. Wanted to give it to a party insider. It's the same party that when I ran for president, they wouldn't even write back an email acknowledging my campaign as we were gaining momentum. Wouldn't even write back an email acknowledging our campaign existed. It is a broken, very corrupt system. Bernie's not sugarcoating it anymore in a more stark way than he ever has. And he says it right there that Hillary and Trump both are not good choices, which is true because it's a corporate Democrat versus a super corrupt autocrat. And that's not an ideal scenario, but I do agree with Bernie. At the end, you do have to choose the lesser of two evils, the better of two choices. But throughout this episode, Bernie voiced his frustration over the party's very stale messaging, failure to energize young and working class voters, and the fact that they straight up looked with disdain upon the working class people that built the Democratic Party. Didn't want them in their club, didn't want them in their halls, didn't want to shake hands with them. They became the elitist party that exactly led to Donald Trump in 2016 and in 2024. for. But this isn't Bernie giving up on Democrats exactly. I mean, he isn't one. He's socialist and caucuses with the Democrats again because you have to choose the side you align with more. But it is definitely a pointed demand for the establishment to start taking progressives seriously or keep losing. It's all part of a growing dissatisfaction among progressives with the Democratic Party who say that their voices are not being heard. In fact, according to a survey put together by us at the Young Turks here, over 75% of respondents say their view of the Democratic Party has decreased in favorability since Trump took office. Take a look at this poll. In the last 2 weeks, has your view of the Democratic Party increased or decreased since Trump took office? 76.5% say decreased and 21.36% samesies. Only 2% said their opinion increased of the Democratic Party or improved. It's unsurprising that the TYT audience no longer cares for a Democratic Party that is feckless, corrupt, and searching endlessly for a message that will connect with real people. That's what TYT surmised from that, and it's hard to take any other message from it. One high-profile possibility to run on the Democratic ticket in 2028, people keep talking about, is Pete Buttigieg. When asked about where the party goes from here, Jen Psaki the other day, he said this.
The American people, I think, not only want resistance to Trump, but I think they want what the Democratic Party in the last many years has not given them. And that is an agenda that speaks to the needs of the working class because it's not good enough.
Yeah, I think this is really correct. Look, we have got to make sure that our opposition and everything that we're against, and obviously there is a lot to be passionately against right now, but it has to travel with a clearer picture of what we are for. Because there are a lot of voters who, for whatever reason, and Democrats might be shocked by this, but for whatever reason, did not find any of the things they've seen so far about Donald Trump to be disqualifying. And what that means is there's something else that, it doesn't mean they necessarily loved him, but they need to see something more. This is not a question of accommodating things that we don't agree with or watering down or changing our values. It is a question of making very clear to everybody how your everyday life is different if we're in charge compared to if they're in charge.
Yep, there's lots that the Democratic Party has to fight against. There's lots the Democratic Party has to fight for in much more aggressive ways. And there's lots the Democratic Party has to not fall into traps for and get blamed for focusing on smaller issues or issues that aren't the bread and butter priorities of working class people, of the average voter, if you want to take power again. What is clear also on top of all of this is the Democratic Party has a very long road ahead, and that journey has to include, as TYT put it, a real shift towards progressive values, not just in rhetoric, but in policy, priorities, and the people that they choose to listen to. If the party wants to win the future, it needs to start fighting for the people, not just asking for their votes. I just launched a new podcast, by the way, trying to understand the other side better and trying to figure out ways we can relate to people across the country more. It's called The Wrong Side of History. I'm hosting it with a Republican Trump supporter, former president of Capitol Records and manager of Kid Rock, Lee Trink, and every week we debate the issues that they're trying to divide us with so we can face-to-face hear what's coming in through our echo chambers and see if there's common ground and at least speak to the other side directly and hold our own when necessary, and that's usually the case. But there are some parts we agree as well. I think it's very worth listening. We're currently available on Spotify. Please subscribe to The Wrong Side of History. I'm Ben Glebe for Rebel HQ. Thank you.